Someone unfamiliar with Iceland could be forgiven for assuming that this seemingly remote and barren island in the North Atlantic could have little to offer its 250,000 inhabitants, the proud and hardy descendants of pioneering Norwegian Vikings, who first settled here in the 9th century. In actual fact, the country is breathtakingly beautiful, with towering glaciers, spectacular hot springs, and active volcanoes. And while over the centuries the country's inhabitants had to contend with poverty and hardship, Icelanders today enjoy a standard of living that ranks them among the best off, healthiest, and happiest nations in the world. The country's economic well-being is thanks to the natural resources it has been blessed with, the rich offshore fishing grounds, geothermal heat, and the huge potential for generating electricity offered by the country's numerous rivers. Add to this a nation that is well-educated, self-assured, outward-looking, and eager to embrace the latest in technological advances, and one understands Iceland's marked economic growth and prosperity in recent years. Even though it has always been sparsely populated, Icelanders, to their credit, have maintained a rich cultural heritage, with the Icelandic language and the ancient literary tradition of the sagas having pride of place. While Icelandic has changed little over the centuries, it has kept pace with the new technology and the terminology of the information age, and effectively staved off the influence of Danish and the massive flow of Anglo-American language and culture. Icelanders take great pride in their language, and it is central to their national consciousness. As one scholar has put it, if the Icelanders lose their language, they will cease to exist. Icelanders are culturally inclined and highly supportive of the arts. There are 3 professional theaters, an opera company, and ballet ensemble, as well as a national orchestra. No mean achievement for a population of 265,000. Since 1944, Iceland has been a republic with a constitutional form of government, having a president as head of state. The National Assembly, or Alþingi, the oldest parliament in the world, is comprised of 63 members elected on the basis of proportional representation for a term of 4 years. Icelandic women have been taking an ever-increasing role in politics. In 1980, Iceland became the first country in the world to elect a woman as head of state in a general election, when Vigdís Finnbogadóttir took office as president. In the autumn of 1999, Hillary Clinton and Madeleine Albright will be 2 of the international speakers attending an international forum in Iceland entitled Women and Democracy. In Iceland there are 2 levels of government, state and local authorities. Local authorities have a history dating back to the early 10th century and are the source of the long democratic tradition that the Nordic countries are renowned for. Because of a diminishing rural population, and in order to better meet their many obligations, a number of neighboring authorities have in recent years unified themselves into larger units. There are now 124 local authorities, Reykjavik City being the largest. Over the past decade, local authorities have been shouldering ever more responsibility and have played a major part in raising the country's standard of living to what it is today. Local authorities now see to such matters as elementary education, social welfare, and much of the country's infrastructure. To date, 90% of Icelandic homes are heated with natural hot water supplied by their local authorities. Interest in local politics has always been considerable in Iceland, and it's not uncommon to see 90% of the electorate go to the polls at election time. Since its full independence in 1944, Iceland's foreign policy has been that of developing close cooperation with other Western democracies. It was one of the founding members of NATO in 1949, and the bilateral defense cooperation between Iceland and the US will certainly continue to be central to its foreign policy. Iceland joined the United Nations in 1946, the Council of Europe in 1951, and over the years has played an active part in the Nordic Council. Internationally, Iceland has pushed for disarmament at sea and more efficient environmental protection. The country has also played its role as an international peace broker, it being the venue for the historic summit meeting between Reagan and Gorbachev in 1986. While the Icelandic economy is becoming ever more diversified, its mainstay is still very much the fishing industry. The country's modern fishing fleet harvests in the region of 1.6 million tons annually. Icelandic vessels are now fishing further afield than ever before, and Icelandic companies have been established throughout Europe, in the US and Canada, as well as in Central and South America. Frozen, salted and fresh Icelandic fish, renowned for its high quality, is exported to markets in Europe, America and Asia. Because of the reliance on fish, Icelanders are keenly aware of the need to preserve the ecological balance in their environment, and over the years have pursued a sensible and effective fishing policy. Iceland has only recently come to have a tradition of heavy industry. Now, with the ample availability of low-cost electricity, a number of international power-intensive industries are in operation, producing, for example, aluminium. A flourishing light engineering industry has also grown up in connection with the design and manufacture of fishing gear and processing equipment for the food industry. Using the latest in technological know-how, Iceland today has the means to take far greater advantage of the huge potential for power generation offered by its many rivers and geothermal resources. It's clear that the possibilities for future expansion are enormous, and Iceland's intended program for industrial development is reliant on its ability to generate electricity on a large scale and sell it to power-intensive industries at competitive prices. Already a number of such industries have been established by Swiss, Japanese, Norwegian and American companies. Though geographically isolated, Iceland's excellent air and sea connections and its modern telecommunications system mean that contact with the outside world is a swift and straightforward process. The country's largest airline, Icelandair, has recently replaced its fleet with new aircraft, thus becoming the most modern in the world. Three major shipping companies service over 30 scheduled destinations worldwide. Appropriately known as the land of ice and fire, Iceland has so much with which to enchant the visitor. The number of tourists has been growing yearly, and tourism is now a very important source of national income. But while Iceland is happy to see this expansion, there is a strong awareness as to the need to develop the industry in a way that is ecologically responsible. Iceland's State Land Reclamation Service already has in place a clearly defined policy to counteract the effects of soil erosion and redress the damage done over many centuries. One of the latest and most exciting additions to the Icelandic industrial sector is that of computer software design. Already there are a number of very successful local companies in this field that have made their mark internationally. The fact that Icelanders are so technologically oriented and that computer literacy is among the highest in the world makes for an environment within which such an industry can thrive and develop. Though small by international standards, Iceland's economy has fared well over the past decades, and from 1972 to 1981, the average rate of economic growth was 4.5%. The past few years have been particularly encouraging in that growth and stability have been sustained at the same time that prosperity and living standards have risen. If compared internationally, Iceland ranks as one of the most affluent and technologically advanced societies in the Western world. In the post-war years, the US was Iceland's most important trading partner. Today, the focus has shifted so that most of the country's trade is with the European Union. What is all important for Iceland is that it continue to have an unhindered market for its most lucrative export, fish. Even though Iceland is now a member of the European Economic Area, full membership of the European Union is something that needs very careful consideration, since it would likely entail opening the country's exclusive fishing grounds to the Union's fishing fleets. In just a few decades, Iceland has managed to build up an extensive social welfare system, handling such services as the care of the aged, the disabled and the young. Staffed by specialists, many of whom have had postgraduate training in Europe or the US, the country's healthcare system is on a par with the best in the Western world. The quality of the health service is reflected in the fact that Iceland has the lowest infant mortality rate and one of the highest life expectancy rates in the world. In a country having such a rich literary tradition, it's only natural that education is something that has always been highly regarded. Schools are modern and well-equipped, and education policy is regularly reviewed so as to ensure that it is meeting the needs of a society and economy that are rapidly growing and becoming increasingly diverse. Iceland has a number of third-level institutions throughout the country, offering a variety of educational opportunities. Because it is common for Icelanders to go abroad for further study and specialization, people are well informed and up-to-date in their fields. Traditionally, scientific research in Iceland was very much shaped by the natural environment, namely the rich fishing grounds, hydro and geothermal energy, and the volcanic and glacial character of the country. With the realization that social and economic advancement go hand in hand with scientific research, official policy is now that of increasing funding, encouraging long-term planning, and bridging the gap between basic and applied science. By nature, Icelanders are hardy and robust, so it's perhaps not surprising that when it comes to leisure activity, they like nothing better than the challenge of engaging in one of the many outdoor activities their beautiful country has to offer. These range from skiing, horse trekking, hiking and fishing, to the more traditional ones of swimming, golf and soccer. In addition to the many fine swimming pools, nature provides the opportunity to bathe and relax all year round in more exotic and unconventional surroundings such as the Blue Lagoon. This young, independent nation looks to the new millennium, confident that with sensible planning, it can far exceed the economic success attained so far. But Icelanders know that future progress must be of a type that is in harmony with their natural environment and one that does not threaten their rich cultural heritage.